Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Mal with Made by Manny and Mal. Today we are making this glitter swirl Halloween peekaboo tumbler. We've got a lot to go over today. Everything is linked for you in the description box below, so let's go. For this design, we're using a 35-ounce skinny from Hogg. I wanted a lot of surface area for this design, so we're using a big boy. I've already sanded it down and prepped it, so now we're going to do our base painting. So the way we're going to do this is kind of like a normal swirl pattern, but in one part of the swirl, we're just going to kind of splotch our paint on there. So our main swirl is going to be this combination of dark purples and some lighter colors. So my main swirl is that super deep dark purple, and then I sprayed a couple lighter colors on either side. And now in that remaining strip of stainless steel, we're just going to do some random splotches of these bright neon colors. This does not have to be perfect. It doesn't matter really what it looks like. As long as you can see a variation in color, you will get a good result. Once the paint dried, I added a very thin layer of epoxy so that we can apply our glitter. So in this middle section with all of the neon colors, I'm going to take Silk from Peachy Olive Glitters. This is a really great cheat glitter, so it's going to show all the colors underneath. Really great cheat glitter. I love using this for things like this. So once that's all glittered, we're going to glitter our remaining swirl like normal. So we're going to take our chunkiest glitters first and then build up the depth and the swirl as we go. So I'm taking Kevin from the glitter guy first and putting that in the center of that really dark purple, and then taking Spellbound from PDB and putting that on either side, kind of going over that Kevin as well to start to blend and really bring that depth and dimension that we're looking for. So once I had Spellbound on there, I moved on to our next glitter color, which is Atlantis from PDB. This is a super bright, beautiful blue. I thought it would be kind of a good color to transition from those super dark colors in our swirl to the lighter colors that will end up being our peekaboo. So just putting this on the edges of where I put Spellbound, just at the top and the bottom, not going the whole length, because on the other sides that we didn't put our Atlantis, we're going to take Blessed from PDB and kind of fill in that stripe in that way. So we've got our main stripe of Kevin, and then we've got Spellbound kind of moving outwards on our swirl, and then we're taking a mixture of Atlantis and Blessed kind of on that outside swirl area. I hope that makes sense. So then next we're going to take ZEPHYR from PDB and just take this all over that entire swirl area, over all the colors we've placed down. This is just going to help continue to build the depth and fill in any gaps. Next, we're moving into our finer cut glitters. So I'm taking Enigma from PDB and I'm covering mainly the dark middle purple section. And then I'm taking Royal TEASE to cover the outer kind of brighter sections. So we did a really dark purple, and then we're doing a lighter purple on the outside sections. I'm going to tap off all the excess with a pair of scissors, make sure that we don't contaminate any of our glitters. And then for the last little section, we're going to take Silk again and cover that section that we did in the beginning, but also kind of let it flow into our regular swirl section that we just glittered, just to help build the blend a little bit more and make sure that we've got really good coverage. We used a ton of chunky glitter on this cup, so I want to make sure that that's all laying flat before I seal it in with epoxy. So I'm taking a sheet of parchment paper and I'm going to roll my cup in that parchment paper and just make sure that all of that glitter is lying flat. If you don't do this and you just let your glitter stick out, when you epoxy, it could be really pointy and sharp, and you'll have to use a ton of epoxy and sand to high heaven, which I hate doing. So I recommend always patting down your chunky glitters to make sure they're as flat as can be. Once our initial glitter layer cured about 2 to 3 hours, I went in with my first coat of epoxy. I took 30 milliliters of a little extra epoxy and did a coat on my cup, torched it, and then did a second coat of about 25 milliliters. And once that cured, I was ready to clean up my rim. So I took my craft knife and it just took all of the epoxy off of that upper rim, and then took an 80 grit sanding block and sanded down the rim to make sure it was smooth. And I also sanded down the little bit of muffin booty that we had on the bottom. Our next step is to tape off our peekaboo area of our swirl. So I'm taking this thick blue painter's tape, and I'm going to tear it in half so we can expose a raw edge. Because I didn't want these tape lines to be completely straight and smooth, I wanted them to look a little bit more rustic and rugged. We are going to go back through this and clean it up and add some mica later, so if you wanted to use the straight edges of your tape, it will turn out totally fine. So I'm going to tape off the remainder of this swirl to make sure we don't have to do any spray paint cleanup later. And now we are going to go into Silhouette Studio so we can create our stencils and our offset outlines for the cup. I've got my Halloween little SVG doodles already loaded into Silhouette Studio, so I'm going to select them all, then go up to the offset button, change the size of my offset, and then I'm actually going to go up to the left-hand corner and change the color so I can actually see what I'm doing. And I want these to be kind of thin. I don't want these to be a big chunky outline that we have on our peekaboo. So I'm going to make them a little bit smaller and then hit apply, which is going to create both our offset and our regular decal. Then I'm going to select shape by shape, go up to object, then modify, and then divide, which is pretty much the same as slice in Cricut. So if you're using Cricut Design Space, you'll do the exact same thing, create your offset, and then select both images, both the offset and your regular SVG, and then hit slice, which will cut out your SVG from your offset. For the wording on the cup, I wanted to do something a little bit different, so I took this cute little boo word that I created, made a regular offset of that, just did the default size, and then I took the offset and made an offset of that. So I went back up to offset and then it changed the size to 0.050, the same as the offsets we just created. And I'm going to repeat the exact same process. So I created the offset, then I highlighted them both, went up to object, modify, divide, which sliced out our big stencil from our outline. So we've got our main stencil, our holographic inside, and then we have the outline that we're going to add at the end. Here's our big stencil. This is the regular offset that we created of our normal SVG. And then I've got also the stencils of my little doodles that I cut out. I cut out more than I needed. I didn't know how much space they were going to take up, and I always want to have more than I need. So first we're going to put down our boo stencil. I'm just going to place this right in the middle of the swirl as kind of the main focal point, and then we're going to start placing the stencils wherever we think they want to go. For this 35-ounce skinny, I cut each image a little bit at a different size. They're between like 1.5 to 2 inches max in size. So these are pretty small, but I didn't want them to be so small that they were insignificant. As you're placing your decals, just keep in mind that wherever you put your stencil down, that's what's going to show through after you paint. So if there are any areas of glitter that you don't like, that just don't blend well, don't put a stencil there because you can cover it up with paint after. Once I had all my big stencils laid down, I went back and cut out some little moons, stars, and bats just to place around the bigger decals. These will not be outlined. They're just going to give us a little bit more interestingness in this cup. They're going to end up showing more glitter, which I definitely like, and it's going to break up all of those offsets a little bit. So once I had all of that placed down, I took a flat black paint from Rustoleum and painted that entire section, let it dry about an hour, and then I peeled up first all of our blue painter's tape, and then I went in with my tweezers and started very carefully removing our stencils. This stencil vinyl is fantastic because it comes right up and it's so easy to remove. Just be careful when you are doing this. You don't want to scratch your paint or mess it up in any way, so just be really careful and definitely take your time when you're doing this. Once I pulled up all my stencils, I took some 91% rubbing alcohol and a coffee filter, and I started to kind of rough up those edges of where we did our peekaboo. I know we ripped our tape and tried to make them look a little rustic. They still just looked a little too sharp for me. So I took my rubbing alcohol and just kind of roughed them up a little bit. I'm not using acetone. I'm not really trying to take off a whole lot here. Just wanted to rough up the edges a little bit more. I'm going to go right into adding the remaining vinyl detailing for this. You do not have to do a coat of epoxy if you don't want to. However, if you feel more comfortable doing a coat of epoxy, just in case you're worried about your paint peeling up or anything like that, you can definitely do a coat and then come back and do all of this vinyl detailing work after that. I'm just going straight in. So first we're going to apply our holographic kind of inset Boo. This is the regular SVG that I cut out of holographic vinyl, and I'm going to put it inside where that stencil is. And as you can see a little bit of the glitter peekaboo on the outside edges of the word as well as on the inside, which is just what I wanted. By the way, I will have that Boo SVG with the outlines and offsets and everything you need available in my Etsy shop. I will have that linked down below. And everything else I got from Creative Fabrica, so I will have those linked down below as well for all the shapes and everything. For our regular offsets of all of our little symbols, I used Hyacinth Blue from Tech Wrap Craft, cut all of these out, and then reverse weeded them because they are pretty small and delicate. And then I just applied them to each shape on the outside of the peekaboo. So our glitter looks nice and outlined, and I really love doing this. It gives it a really nice, like, finished professional touch. Once we had all of the outlines done for our shapes, I went back to our Boo and applied the outline for that. So this is the offset outline slice that we created. So this is going to go on the very outside of our letters. It's technically on the black part of the peekaboo, so you should still be able to see the glitter peeking through the edges of the holographic vinyl, and it just kind of outlines everything and brings it all together. So now this is what we've got. I'm going to put it on my turner and seal all my vinyl with a coat of Quick Coat from CCDIY to make sure we don't get any lifting or anything. I'm gonna let that dry about 30 minutes, and then I'm gonna get all of my little colorants ready. I know I said I was gonna use micas, but I didn't use any micas. So I've got 3 little medicine cups here with blue, purple, and black pigment. For the purple, I'm using Lotus Alcohol Ink from PDB and a Lilac Armor Art from CCDIY. For the blue, I'm using Oasis Alcohol Ink from PDB and a pastel blue Armor Art from CCDIY. And for the black, I'm using Moon Dust Pigment Powder and Void Alcohol Ink, which are both from PDB. All of the color names and everything will be listed in the description below, so you have the exact colors if you want to use them. I'm going to add a little bit of my little extra ink epoxy into each cup. We're not going to use a lot here, so max like 5 milliliters in each cup. I'm going to apply a pretty thin coat of epoxy to my cup before I add any colorants. I'm not adding a ton. I don't want these colors to move too much, so you don't need to add a whole bunch of epoxy to ensure that these colors will like disperse and move. That's usually the opposite of what I want to happen. I usually want my colors to swirl and move around and really blend together, but in this case I want them to stay right where I'm putting them. I'm placing them so that they will blend the edge of our peekaboo with our glitter a little bit better. So I'm not using a lot. I'm really being super sparse with this. I did the purple first, then the blue, and then I went in with the black, and we're really keeping this super tight and up close to those black edges of our spray paint. Finally, I'm going to take some regular epoxy mixed with just moon dust by itself, and I'm going to just string this on with a gloved finger into my colored areas. I want to just break these colors up a little bit and give this like a kind of marbled texture effect. It also adds a lot of sparkle, which, you know, I love. So once I had that added on there, I just let this spin. I didn't hit it with heat or anything. I did change the direction of my turner like maybe every like 20 to 30 minutes, just to make sure that the colors were staying where they belonged. And if you do have any color migrate into that glitter section, you can just take a gloved finger and wipe it away, and your epoxy will level out and be totally fine. So if you have anything that gets in there, just wipe it away with a gloved finger. After this coat of epoxy cured, I finished the bottom and added my final coat of about 30 milliliters, and once it was cured, this cup is finished. To say I love this design is an understatement. I am so obsessed with how this turned out. I love the glitter colors, and I love that it's a kind of fun, bright, different take on Halloween. I will have this design available as a made-to-order option on my website, madebymannyandmal.com, so if you like this design and want to buy one for yourself, you can get it in any size, and I would love to make one for you. My website is linked in the description box below, and I hope you loved the tutorial and that you enjoyed the video. Please let me know what you think in the comments. I really hope that this inspires you, and I can't wait to see what you create. Okay, I'll see you in the next one. Love you. Bye.